Hey Chris, how are you?
I am awesome, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I am so excited that we're doing this. We're finally
Me
launching
too.
the playbook, which I feel like we've been talking about since the fall, and it's so exciting that it's finally here. Before we dive into why we've chosen to refresh the playbook and what all is included, let's do quick introductions. Can you tell the great folks listening who you are?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So I'm obviously senior advisor with the Aspen Institute's Upskill America initiative, and beyond that, and within that, I work with leaders and organizations across a wide range of businesses. And all of that centers really around a core belief that when you invest in people, you unlock performance. And it's not just performance for an individual, but lasting performance for the business, which is why I'm so excited to be working with you and Aspen Institute's Upskill America. Before this, I led learning and development at Disney, where I helped build and create Disney Aspire, one of the largest education investment programs in the country.
That's awesome. And I, like you, am coming from a period of time in corporate America. I spent 5 years at Walmart leading Live Better You until I joined our fearless leader, Haley Glover, as the associate director here at Upskill America. So really excited to use all of our combined knowledge plus Haley's brilliance to be able to create and launch this refreshed playbook. So let's talk a little bit about why we felt like we needed to refresh the playbook. It's obviously something that Upskill has been known for. Our wonderful comms team tells us that it's one of the highest trafficked places on the Upskill site. So why did we take this moment and this time to invest in refreshing our playbook?
Yeah, I'd love to start with. There's a lot of excitement for upskilling, right? But there's also, to be honest, there's confusion, there's missed opportunity, there's fragmentation, right? So, I think you and I and Haley got excited about, could we address both of those things? Could we address excitement and some of the challenges that we saw, and how could we use some of all of our experience that we have to reflect today's current reality? Right, the talent shortages, workforce disruption, the pressure on leaders, and could we create something that wasn't just about fixing a pipeline, but recognizing and helping companies recognize and develop people that are already there and giving them a path forward? That's what comes top of mind for me.
Yeah, and I think what are the questions that we had when we were in these moments of learning, and how can we sort of help extract those and help other leaders who might be facing challenges at a variety of different kinds of organizations navigate the uncertainty they're experiencing in this sort of updated context of today's sort of ever-changing environment. Let's talk about how this playbook isn't a one-size-fits-all guide, but what is it intended to do, and who is it for?
That drafts right off of what you just said, and I'm so glad you went there, because it's designed for real people making real decisions. It's designed for HR leaders who are maybe designing something, trying to work on the challenges. It's also designed for managers and leaders who may feel themselves caught in the middle, right? They want to create a path forward, but they're not sure where to start. They're not sure what to do. And it's also for executives looking for new ideas. I think you and I both tried to write this with all of them in mind, and really so that each persona sees themselves and sees what they could do next. And to what you and I both experienced of not having a playbook to follow when we were doing the work we were doing, we wanted to follow the principles of good design, where if we meet people where they are, and that's what we strove to create with this playbook.
I love it. And I think it's really important that folks understand that it's meant to be used however you need to use it, right? Whatever personas, right? Whether you're navigating a frontline manager audience or high-level executive leadership, hopefully you'll find helpful aspects included in every chapter of the playbook. So I know one of my favorite things about you, Krista, is how aspirational you are and how much you're always striving for sort of what the best that can be is, while simultaneously we wanted this playbook to be really actionable So whether you're just getting started or trying to fine tune an existing program, there's something here. Let's talk about what all is included in the playbook. What are the chapters, and how are you meant to use them?
At the beginning, like, you have to ground in, like, let's get everybody clear on what upskilling is, what it isn't, and why now. I think that's really important. If you go back to the personas that we're talking about and the audience we're trying to meet, this gives them important information and insight, and get grounded around common definitions. And then the second chapter is one I'm extremely excited about, which is the ecosystem, right? It's programs do not work in isolation. They work when you build a system and you surround that system and help drive the success that you're out to drive. So I'm really excited for people to see the ecosystem chapter. It gives you that big picture of all the components and help understand where an upskilling initiative fits and how you can work it within your company today, but also be striving to create something bigger. And then the next one I'll hit on maybe is the types of upskilling, right? We all talk about, well, is a training initiative upskilling? Is it just degree programs? Is it, well, do internships count? Do they not count? Right? I loved just going through all those types of upskilling that as you and I were building it, to kind of be clear on what are the different types and how can you think about them.
Right, and how can you build a system that works for different personas and audiences within your own organization, right? It's like ingredients in a pantry, right? You may be baking a cake and a lemon loaf, right? Where you're still going to need flour, right? And so what are all those components, and who are the stakeholders you need to engage in each aspect of this? The ecosystem chapter, as well as the program components chapter, which I think is chapter 4, yes. Both really go a long way in demonstrating to folks all the different people you need at the table, right? If you had told me when I was starting in this space designing education programs that I would need to become a tax expert, I would have laughed. But I spent a lot of time over the 5 years I was in corporate America getting an understanding of tax policy, ERISA versus non-ERISA benefits, all of that, to best place this program inside the organization I was a part of, right? And so how can we make it so folks can sort of learn from the lessons we've absorbed and make sure that they understand all the different components that go into designing a program, regardless of the type of upskilling you're pursuing.
Chelsea, that's so important, because when you take on an upskilling effort, right, you might think, well, I'm building an education program, or I'm building an internship program, or I'm building, right, whatever. But then once you start understanding how you can create the impact for a business, it quickly leads you down to tax, leads you down to technology, it leads you to legal, it leads you to the leaders, it leads you to understanding parts of the business that you needed to learn more about. And all of that is so important, because when you get to know and play with all of those things, you recognize what creates a strong, scalable effort. And that's what the program components chapter really does.
That's right. That's spot on. And to dovetail on what you're saying, right, once you've figured out what all those things are, you can figure out what the metrics are you need to focus on. And that's the 5th chapter, is all around metrics. And sort of what matters, what doesn't matter, how, as a program evolves, you can sort of continue to move the goalpost for what excellence looks like, and understand what are metrics that matter and what are metrics that you might think matter, but really aren't a key indicator of success of your program. And I'm really excited for what we've included in that chapter. And then the last chapter I'd love for you to talk a little bit about with maturity models, right? This education benefit, McDonald's just celebrated their 10th anniversary, right? Some of us have been doing this for about a decade. Some of us have been doing it for about 10 weeks or less, What does it look like for sort of, tell us about the maturity model chapter.
Yeah, and well, I actually want to go back to metrics, because metrics reminds me of one of the best things that I love about working with you, which is that your openness and your curiosity and what you do with that. So I remember a conversation you and I had about, it's over a year ago, where we started talking about productivity. and where productivity comes from and what the real definition of productivity is. So what I'm really fired up about in the metrics chapter is we showcase different metrics, some of which you, when you read it, you may go, oh, I never thought that would be in the conversation, but we bring those in. And then, leading to the maturity models is, of course, a chapter on implementation, which tells you how to get it started, right? But if you think about implementation, and you think about a maturity model, that's step one, right? Getting started. And what I think is beautiful for how we've brought into the playbook is this maturity model piece. So hopefully everyone can see where they are, but not just see where they are, where they want to be, right? Where they want to get to. And that chapter does some great things for everybody.
Yeah, and it helps look around the corner, right? I think that's one of the things now that we've been sort of on the path, right? We can help folks sort of look around the corner. What's the next question your executive leader is going to ask you? Or what's the next step in the strategy that you can be driving towards to help make sure that the program is as robust as it can be?
Yeah.
The last thing I'd love to talk about is sort of how we built this as a choose your own adventure book, as opposed to read chapter 1 and chapter 2. So we just went through sort of all the components of the book, but share a little bit about how you're hoping folks use this playbook.
Bottom line is, this is a resource to come back to over and over again. There is so much depth and so much knowledge, and yet we didn't even cover it all, right? But it's a playbook. It's a playbook for a reason, right? Think of a cooking analogy, or think of a sports analogy. Think of anything that you need to go back to remind yourself of what's important and other things that you want to play with. We've got it in there. So if you're facing a new challenge, I guarantee you come back to it. You might read a chapter, you might come back to it and go, oh, I want to play with this now. Or if you're building a strategy, you can start with the ecosystem chapter. This playbook helps you move forward with clarity and confidence. It's not a linear read, right? You can dive in at any point. And my big wish is like that it helps you not just build better programs, but reminds you of what's possible when you invest in people.
That's right. And that it's really actionable. It's a worksheet. Most of the chapters include at least one worksheet or question prompts, right? I found when I was editing that I wanted to grab a notebook and start, almost journaling the thought starters and the questions that are in there. Some are really action oriented, some are more philosophical questions, but really dive at the heart of taking what's included in the playbook and applying it inside your organization. So with that, sorry, did you have anything else?
I want to say one thing to that doing upskilling work is leading change work. And to what you just said, that the worksheets, the workbooks, they're designed so that you can process what it's like to lead change, and you can process what it's like to lead this type of change. And when you do that, you get better.
That's right. I totally agree. And that leads really well into my last point. This is a living, breathing document. We are going to continue to update and continue to add case studies to each chapter and sort of evolve this document as we go, right? When we did the initial playbook, it was a static document. It was sort of, here's what to do. That's not our approach this time. With the refresh, we really intend to continue iterating. We want your feedback, right? You're going to see blogs and more information coming from a multitude of channels. We want to make this as easy and as actionable for you as possible. So we really appreciate your interest in the playbook, and we really are excited for you to dive in and to understand how it helps and what more information you need, so Chris and Haley and I can continue to refine.
Couldn't say it better myself.